What's up, everybody? It's Jordan, and welcome to the Sports to Hines Show. I've not been able to do any videos recently due to a power outage. Today is Tuesday. I just got power back last night and did not have it for a week, so I was unable to do, any videos talking about, some recent moves in sports, news, topics, some mock drafts. I had lots of those planned and everything. I was unable to do them, so I was unable to record this past week because no Wi-Fi and everything like that. So there's lots of things I'm going to discuss and talk about today. I'm going solo today, just me doing this video. So we'll go ahead and get started here. We'll talk about it's already been close to 2 weeks at this point because what I talked about is earlier, like I said, no power or nothing. But the Houston Texans released J.J. Watt, future Hall of Famer, All-Pro, one of the best defensive players in the league, one of the best players in the league in general when he's 100% healthy. But, that main part is healthy. That's a big issue. That's part of the reason why, they released him. He's only had one season the past 4 or 5, he's only had one season the last, I believe 5 years. He's had 10 sacks or more because he's just not been able to stay on the field. And, I know lots of people say, he's going to go to the Steelers. That's a no-brainer because he can play with, T.J. Watt and his brother and Derek Watt too. They're both with Pittsburgh. But, the Steelers don't have hardly any money. And the Steelers would actually have to, release probably multiple people for them to even release J.J. Watt. There was reports several days ago that he possibly, could go to Cleveland. That would be amazing. Him on one side and then Myles Garrett on the other. That is a very, very scary defensive line, no matter who, you're going to, whatever offensive line lines up against that defensive line. But a team to me that I think, J.J. Watt would fit well with is the Packers. I said it a couple months ago because I thought the Texans should have traded J.J. Watt during the season. But I understand, they wait, once the season ends. And I liked how they did it. They were able to release him. He's done so much for the community there. Once the hurricanes and all those storms happened, he raised so much money and everything with the charities and stuff. You couldn't debate he's the best, Texans player of all time. I would probably say him or Andre Johnson. But I think it's a good move by the Texans to release J.J. Watt so he can go wherever he wants to go. But right now, I think it's the Packers. I think he may go there because, like I said, the Steelers have no money. And he played college football in Wisconsin. He goes to Packers. Obviously, Green Bay's in Wisconsin, familiar territory type of deal. The Packers to me just need one or two more pieces to win a Super Bowl. They need a little more help on the defensive side of the ball, and I think J.J. Watt could do that. So, talking about the Houston Texans and J.J. Watt, being released, at this point, it's been close to 2 weeks. There's been lots of rumblings, where star quarterback Deshaun Watson will go to. The Carolina Panthers have released Kawan Short and Trey Boston, and there's lots of rumors, they're cut those players to save some money and have enough money to trade for Deshaun Watson. I personally do not believe that's the case. I don't think the Panthers would trade for Deshaun Watson. I think the Panthers, the reason they're cutting some of those players is because they're old and they have high contracts and they're not what they used to be. And they can use that money to re-sign, top offensive tackle Taylor Moton in free agency. He's one of the top offensive tackles in free agency. And I think that's regardless who the quarterback is, the Panthers, I think them re-signing them, Taylor Moton is a big part of their free agency plans to protect whoever the quarterback will be. But to me, I've said a couple episodes, I think Deshaun Watson with the Washington football team would be a really, really good fit. And I really do think it would be. I think there would be immediate Super Bowl contenders. I think that would be, absolutely outstanding. You have a young defense. You have a good offense, really, really underrated offense. And you have a top 5 quarterback in Deshaun Watson. But, after thinking about it, looking up, some different teams, the perfect fit to me for Deshaun Watson is obvious. Easily the Denver Broncos. And I know if you've listened to my episodes before, and if you one of the first listeners of my, podcast. I was really, really high on the Broncos going in this past season. I had them going to the playoffs. I had them winning, I believe it was 10 or 11 games. I had Drew Lock winning MVP. I know it sounds, at this point, it's just laughable. But I really thought Drew Lock was going to be good. He was injured some, and when he was even healthy, he wasn't really good. Denver had some injuries. Cortland Sutton was hurt. Von Miller was hurt. They have an amazing young talent, on that team. They have Drew Lock. He's still a question mark, honestly. Melvin Gordon, they did have Philip Lindsay, but he's a free agent. Now, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, Tyree Cleveland, Noah Fant, Albert O, Dalton Reisner, Glasgow, their offensive linemen. Justin Simmons, I believe he's a free agent, but they're probably going to re-sign him, one of the best safeties in the league. Von Miller, he's getting up there in age, but he's still pretty good. Bradley Chubb. To me, the only big issue for the Broncos is corner, but they could address that in free agency if they have to, or even a draft. But Deshaun Watson to the Broncos makes just so much sense, because think of it this way. Like I said, the Panthers, there's talks about they can maybe trade for Deshaun Watson. Whoever trades for Deshaun Watson is 100% going to be trading their starting quarterback to the Houston Texans. Why would the Texans want Teddy Bridgewater in the first place? Because one, he has 1 year on his contract. Two, he's not really good. And three, he's making like $20 million on the final year of his contract to be an average starter. At the absolute best, about an average starter. To me, if you're the Texans, you want somebody who's on a rookie contract. Drew Lock's on a rookie contract. You also want to fill some other holes on your defense. You just released J.J. Watt. Bradley Chubb's on a rookie contract. He's going into his fourth year with the Denver Broncos, and next year it's his fifth-year option. So that's two really, really young players who are both on rookie contracts, who at this point in their careers are on cheap deals, who can contribute a lot to the Houston Texans and the Denver Broncos. Obviously they're going to give up multiple first-round picks. Let's say they give up 3 first-round picks and a second-round pick. You would give up 3 first-round picks, a second-round pick, starting quarterback on Drew Lock, who's on a rookie contract, and Bradley Chubb, who's really, really good, really nice defensive edge rusher who replace, J.J. Watt, who he's on a rookie contract as well. You're saving money, and you're getting a ton of draft assets for the future of your team. I would really, really like that trade. I think that benefits both teams. And I think, Watson to the Broncos, I think that would be a great fit. And Deshaun Watson gets traded to the Denver Broncos, they are 100% Super Bowl contenders immediately. They are the second best team in the AFC. I don't even know if it's that far-fetched to say they're, right up there with the Chiefs. I know it sounds crazy. But Deshaun Watson is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He's the second best quarterback in the AFC behind Patrick Mahomes. Like I said, they have so many weapons. Melvin Gordon, Jeudy, Sutton, Hamler, Tyree Cleveland, all those guys, pretty much all of them for the most part are on rookie contracts, except for Melvin Gordon. That's just absolutely insane to have so many young players on rookie contracts. And then you add a top quarterback in Deshaun Watson. That is going to be absolutely insane. I really feel like the perfect team for Deshaun Watson is the Denver Broncos. Nobody else, in my opinion, really looking at it, is even really close, because I know I said, Washington makes sense, but Washington doesn't have that quarterback to trade to Houston to replace Watson. Like I said, whoever gets Deshaun Watson, they are 100% trading their starting quarterback away. And since Drew Lock is on a rookie contract, I think that makes a lot of sense. And, with J.J. Watt, being released, Bradley Chubb also makes a lot of sense too, because he's on a rookie contract. I will absolutely love to see Deshaun Watson go to the Denver Broncos. I think it would benefit both teams. So several days ago, Carson Wentz, Eagles starting quarterback, was traded to the Indianapolis Colts for a second and third round pick. The second round pick could go up to a first if he plays, I believe, 75% of his snaps. I have said this for months and months and months and months. This makes so much sense. I've tried to tell people on Twitter. Every time I've said Carson Wentz on my videos, I've mentioned he's going to the Colts. It's obvious. And I mean, lo and behold, it happens. This is absolutely phenomenal for the Colts. Like I said, if Deshaun Watson goes to the Broncos, they're Super Bowl contenders. The Indianapolis Colts are 100% Super Bowl contenders right now. Philip Rivers this past season played with the Colts, and his last season in the NFL, his only season with the Colts, that was arguably his worst season ever in the NFL. He could not throw more than about 10, 15 yards. He was a lot like Drew Brees, but just people weren't talking about it because, he's not as big of a star as Drew Brees. He's old, just can't throw well. But they were still nearly able to defeat the Buffalo Bills in the wild card matchup. And the Bills are one of the best teams in the NFL this season. I know they lost to the, Chiefs in the blowout in the AFC Championship game, but the Bills were one of the better teams this year, and they were still nearly beat them in the playoffs with, Philip Rivers not being good. They have a nice offense with some young players, Marlon Mack, and they have Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman. They have a great defense, one of the best defenses in the NFL. Not to mention, I said offense. They probably have the best offensive lineman in the NFL, and Quentin Nelson. Defense, they have a top 5 defense. And, you have Carson Wentz, who goes to Indianapolis now with Frank Wright, who was his offensive coordinator with the Philadelphia Eagles for 2 seasons, his rookie season and his second year. His second year with Frank Wright and the Eagles, he was a MVP candidate up until he was injured. He had 33 touchdowns and just 7 interceptions. Also had 300 rushing yards as well. And they were, that was a season the Eagles won a Super Bowl, and Carson Wentz looked like a top 5 quarterback at that point. He was going to win the MVP if he stayed healthy. He was phenomenal. And the fact, ever since, Frank Wright leaves the Eagles, he's not been the same. I don't think that's, I think that's something to really look at. Wentz, he benefits from Frank Wright a lot, and I think they're going to help each other. And, the Colts, like I said, they were good this past season, but now with, Carson Wentz, in my opinion, I think it's a major upgrade over Philip Rivers. I hear people say, the Eagles robbed the Colts. I don't think that way at all. I think when it's all said and done, I think it's a possibility that the Colts robbed the Eagles. I know it sounds crazy, but the Colts are 100% Super Bowl contenders right now. And, it's first and second round pick. If a first and second round pick gets you to the AFC Championship game, and have a chance to play in the Super Bowl and win it, that's 100% worth it. Wentz with Frank Wright, that is going to be, really, really good for the Colts. And, it also kind of benefits the Eagles too. It's not totally sure, what they're going to do with, Jalen Hurts. They're probably going to get some weapons for him. But maybe they can use those picks for a wide receiver or something like that to give him some more weapons, because, he really doesn't have many weapons, and that's part of the reason why Carson Wentz struggled so much this past season. And, he struggled so much because of the offensive line. The Eagles' offensive line was horrible this past season. Look at the Colts. They have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. I really think the Colts are immediately Super Bowl contenders with this trade, and I think they are a team to watch out for in the AFC and just the NFL in general this season. So I've talked about, J.J. Watt being released, Deshaun Watson and Carson Wentz. Switch gears to AEW Dynamite just for a couple of minutes. So this past week, last Wednesday, by the time this episode's out, it's going to be, the new episode of Dynamite's already going to be out. But on last Wednesday's Dynamite, they had Santana and Ortiz take on the Young Bucks for the AEW Tag Team titles. I absolutely hate this because, just several weeks ago, they had, Guevara and Jake Hager, Jericho and MJF, and Santana and Ortiz, and a triple threat, like a tag team match. Whoever won was going to be the tag team in the inner circle. MJF and Jericho won, and just, 2 or 3 weeks later, Santana and Ortiz are getting a tag team championship match. I don't understand why you even had that match in the first place if you're going to give them a tag team championship match. several weeks later. And to me, the only reason it would have made sense for it to happen is if Santana Ortiz would have won. The Young Bucks defeated FTR at Full Gear, and the Young Bucks haven't done much. They have not really been spotlighted a ton, since that match with FTR winning the tag team championships. They've had some good matches, but I really think, Santana Ortiz winning it would benefit the storyline more between, MJF, Jericho, and Guevara and the whole Inner Circle in general, because you're going to have Santana and Ortiz take on MJF and Jericho at Revolution. Obviously, in my opinion, I think they're setting up, MJF's going to pin somebody, and Guevara's going to come out, and then MJF will get rolled up, and they'll lose. But if Guevara, comes out while Santana and Ortiz are fighting MJF and Jericho, and MJF and Jericho lose, MJF can turn on Jericho, and at that point, the rest of the Inner Circle could go ahead and turn on Jericho, Santana, Ortiz, and Hager. MJF all turns on Jericho. You have Guevara standing there, maybe helping Jericho or not. See how that storyline is. But I just really hate how the Inner Circle is pretty much, horrible at this point. 1 year ago around this time, you look at around October, November, January, December. All those type of months, a year ago, right around this time, in my opinion, the Inner Circle was the best thing in wrestling, and it wasn't even close. Jericho was the guy in AEW at that point. Now they're making him, it seems like a comedy act and not like a top heel like they once was. They made Jake Hager look really strong. He's not done nothing, literally nothing at all since that's happened. Santana Ortiz, that was last Wednesday was their first ever tag team championship match. They should not have to wait over a year for that to happen. Guevara, he's going to be a top star. His feud with MJF will be really good. But to me, I just really think Santana Ortiz would have benefited if they would have won, because it could really could have advanced the feud in the Inner Circle. Because MJF and Jericho, I just don't even understand it, because every single week, they're teasing that, MJF's going to turn on Jericho. People talk about, long-term storytelling. There's a difference between like a month and like 5 or 6 months. MJF joined the Inner Circle, I believe, and it's been about 5 or 6 months now, and every single week, there's been a tease, and it's not going to shock anybody once it actually happens. But Santana Ortiz, to me, would have made a lot of sense to, help the Inner Circle feud that's going to happen soon with Jericho and MJF, but it's currently going on with MJF and Guevara after Revolution, once MJF and Jericho, after that match with the Young Bucks for the Tag Team Championship. So that was a little bit about AEW Dynamite the past last week. And then NBA, Andre Drummond for the Cavs and Blake Griffin for the Clippers. They both are not playing until they are either bought out or they are traded. And to me, Drummond, you look at the stats, about 18, 19 points, 14, 15 rebounds. He's done really, really well looking at his stats. But when you actually watch the games, he can have you have 15 points, 15 rebounds. But it seems like he does not really contribute to, a team a ton, despite looking at his stats. You think he plays great, but unless you watch the game, you don't know how, meaningless those stats at times really are for Drummond. And with the Cavs trading Drummond, to me, I think the perfect fit for Andre Drummond is the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics are a hot mess right now, and that's the best word to describe them. They are 500. They lost to the Pelicans Sunday night after blowing a 24-point lead. You have Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown, and you're 500. That's just really unacceptable. And, they need a big guy. The Celtics, they signed Al Horford several years ago. That did not work out at all. I think them trading for Drummond will really give them that established veteran, big guy who could really help in the paint, but also It was announced, I believe today, DeMarcus Cousins was released from the Rockets. I also think that would be a really nice spot for the Celtics. Cousins of the Celtics has actually been rumored for years and years and years, and they're the Celtics. They're always in talks. They could trade for that guy. I mean, you can make like Jimmy Butler, Anthony Davis, Andre Drummond, DeMarcus Cousins. There are so many players, that they're rumored to trade for, but they never do. Take away, the Thomas trade. What trade really helped the Celtics? I mean, honestly, Thomas, he was traded for, I believe, like Marcus Thornton in the second round pick. He was really, really good with the Celtics. I know the Kyrie trade happened, but looking back, that was a complete flop, and that was a horrible trade because Kyrie did not re-sign with the Celtics. But I think the Celtics. I think Drummond at the Celtics makes some sense because it doesn't look like. Drummond's not going to play another game for the Cavs. So I think the Celtics, maybe even the Lakers, they could use another big guys. They already have Montrezl Harrell and Anthony Davis, but they can give LeBron some more help. But I'm just going to be really interested to see what Andre Drummond, where he goes. Also Blake Griffin too. Blake Griffin, to me, Griffin is probably a little bit more intriguing because he's not what he used to be at all. He's not as athletic, and that's what he was most known for. Dunks and everything. He cannot dunk what he used to at all. So I'm really interested to see with Griffin. I honestly think he'll be bought out. I don't think anybody's going to trade for him, especially with his ridiculous contract. But Griffin and Drummond, it's just really crazy. They were both on the team at one point, just last season with the Pistons, and then they're both, not going to play with their respective teams at this point. So on this video, kind of talked about, J.J. Watt being released, the perfect fit for Deshaun Watson, which is the Denver Broncos. Why the, Indianapolis Colts are not Super Bowl contenders with Carson Wentz. A little bit about the AEW Dynamite recap and Andre Drummond, and, a good spot for him is. If you can like this video and subscribe to the channel, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you all so much for listening, and I'll see you next time on the Sports 2 Show.